Thank you very much. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the regular council meeting for Monday, October 15th, 2018. We do have a scheduled recess for 9 o'clock. Are there any late items?
Thank you, Worship. On the addendum this evening, agenda item 5B, we're replacing the minutes of the regular council meeting October 1st, 2018 with the attached version. Agenda item 10B, property disposition, 897 Albert Street, 474 Pine Street, and 478 Pine Street. We're adding a delegation from Jesse Chalmers, Habitat for Humanity, Mid-Vancouver Island. We're removing agenda item 11C, City of Nanaimo Public Nuisance Bylaw 2018, number 7267, and City of Nanaimo Bylaw Notice Enforcement Amendment Bylaw 2018, number 7159.03. As well, a late addition came in, and that was for item 11B, nuisance property abatement at 3796 Victoria Avenue. Bylaw has informed me it can be taken off of the agenda. Thank you.
11B?
That's correct, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. If council would strike those off their agendas. Any other late items, council? Councillor Kipp.
Yeah, thank you. I have a Mr. Preston that would like to speak to, I believe, 10B. That's the disposition of the property on Albert Street. And Mr. Tim McGrath to speak to 10B also. And Mr. McGrath would like to speak to 12G. That's a procedural motion. So all three for late delegations.
Okay, so we'll need to take them individually. The first one is Mr. Preston.
Yes.
I need to refer to the clerk. Is this the gentleman that your staff was referring to?
That's correct, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. I want council to be aware that Mr. Preston was extremely abusive of our staff, and when he attended bylaw services, or pardon me, legislative services, and was well aware of the deadline for delegations. And there's no reason why our staff, particularly at the clerk level, needs to be abused in that fashion.
What, no, you can't say.
There is no point of order, sir. So, I would ask council to consider whether you're going to grant this delegation the time of this council, unless that person is to apologize to our staff. But I will not be voting in favor of this person being granted a delegation. Councillor Kipp.
Well, thank you, Your Worship. I'm not aware of it. We've heard no complaint or nothing from staff. This is new to me. I did talk to Mr. Preston. He said he arrived at 11:03, and that was a concern that he was 3 minutes late to coming in the door. And I guess some people are upset when things like this affect them. So I hope Mr. Preston would be big enough when if he gets to speak, will make amends if he has that feeling. Thank you.
Thank you. So so this was seconded by Councillor Armstrong. All those in favor? Opposed? Show Mayor McKay, Councillor Thorpe, Councillor Brennan. For allowing this delegation. Okay, thank you. So then that remains Councillor Thorpe, Councillor Armstrong, Mayor McKay opposed. Motion carries. There's no point of order, sir. Next, sir, you do not participate from the gallery.
Take your time. You'll be good.
So the next one is Mr. Tim McGrath under 10B. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Bestwick. Any discussion? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Mr. Tim McGrath for 12G, the procedural.
Thank you. It's been seconded by Councillor Armstrong. Any discussion? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Can we have a motion to adopt the agenda as amended, please? Moved by Councillor Thorpe, seconded by Councillor Armstrong. Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. So we have two sets of minutes, the minutes for the September 24th special council meeting and the regular council meeting for October 1st. I can take them together. Moved by Councillor Hong. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Armstrong. Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. There are no presentations. And under the Mayor's report, I, like you, will be waiting anxiously for the results of the municipal elections across British Columbia this coming Saturday night. Many who have served their communities, in some cases for many years, have decided not to seek re-election. To all, we need to thank them for their service. For me, I'm honored to have been elected for 2 terms on council and wish everyone elected the very best in the upcoming 4 years. I would be remiss if I didn't encourage everyone eligible to vote to please do so. We need to remember 4 years ago in Nanaimo, almost 2/3 of the registered voters didn't exercise their democratic right to cast a ballot. Please encourage all your friends, family, co-workers, and neighbors to get out and vote. If you still need more information on the candidates for mayor and council here in Nanaimo, there are resources available to you. Please make use of them. 2 very good websites are NanaimoNews.com, NanaimoBulletin.com, and on social media, NanaimoNet and OurNanaimo.com. In all 4 cases, very detailed and comprehensive information is readily available. I'll leave you with a quote from 1947 by Winston Churchill, where he said, "Many forms of government have been tried and will be tried in this world of sin and woe. No one pretends that democracy is perfect or all-wise. Indeed, it has been said that democracy is the worst form of government, except for all those other forms that have been tried from time to time. On Election Day, please exercise your democratic right to vote." Thank you. The next one is under Administration, Advisory Committee Minutes. I can take all 8 of them together. Councillor Brennan, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Thorpe. Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Next one is under Public Services. The approval of a subdivision approving officer to be introduced by Dale Lindsay, Director of Community Development. Mr. Lindsay.
Thank you, Your Worship. As a result of some internal reorganization and hiring, we have a new manager of our subdivision department. Under the Land Title Act, the council is required to have a subdivision approving officer, and we're here this evening seeking council's recommendation we're seeking council's direction to appoint Jeremy Holm as the city's approving officer. If council passes this motion, Dean Musso will continue in his role as deputy approving officer.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. The next one is property disposition at 897 Albert Street, 474 Pine Street, and 478 Pine Street. To be introduced by Mr. Lindsay.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Corson to do a brief introduction.
Mr. Corson, nice to see you back.
Great, thanks, Your Worship. Council is being asked to approve the disposal of 3 city-owned lots with an area of 2,700 square meters to Habitat for Humanity for a multifamily housing project on Pine Street. Council provided approval in principle for this disposition at the June 18th council meeting, subject to Habitat for Humanity hosting an open house and the city publishing a notice of disposition in the local newspaper. Habitat hosted an open house at the Harewood Activity Center on September 11th. The notice of disposition has been published in the newspaper on October 4th and 11th. In addition, Habitat for Humanity completed a riparian areas regulation assessment and a geotechnical feasibility study for the property. And staff are seeking your direction to finalize this approval. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. Is there someone prepared to move the recommendation? Oh, pardon me. We have delegations. First delegation, Mr. Jesse Chalmers from the Habitat for Humanity Mid-Vancouver Island. We will need your name and address for the record, and you have up to 10 minutes.
Jesse Chalmers, 2335 Ashley Road, Nanaimo, BC. Your Worship, Council members, I'm here representing Habitat for Humanity Mid-Vancouver Island to provide information to help further inform your decision in regards to our affiliates' acquisition of the properties located at 897 Albert Street and 474, 478 Pine Street from the City of Nanaimo. Since our last presentation to Council, we hosted an open house at the Harewood Activity Centre on September 11th to gain public feedback on our proposed development at the aforementioned properties. We felt that we had a good turnout representing a broad cross-section of the local community and that everybody was keen to engage in meaningful and respectful dialogue. Through the collection of feedback slips and conversations that were had by the participants, there were three main themes that came out: protection of the Cat Stream, the property being part of a floodplain, and support for the project. I'll speak first in regards to protection of the Cat Stream. There were a number of community members that questioned the 10-meter riparian area setback that was established as part of the environmental assessment that was completed by Aquaparian Environmental Consulting. It was brought to our attention that there had been a report completed to assess the habitat of the Cat Stream as part of the Regional District of Nanaimo's Drinking Water and Watershed Protection Program. And within that report, there was a mention of a 30-meter riparian setback. I have since followed up with Dave Clough, who conducted the survey and submitted the final report, to get clarification on his interpretation of the required riparian setback for this property. Dave was provided with copies of the proposed development as well as the environmental and geotechnical assessments that have been completed for the property, and I've provided a copy of his response for your review as well. He clarified that any activity within 30 meters of a watercourse may require an assessment from a qualified environmental professional in order to determine the setback. If there are local bylaws already established, they must be followed and no assessment is required. In this case, the City of Nanaimo's bylaw has already established a 15-meter riparian area setback requirement, and this exceeds the 10 meters established by the assessment completed by Aquaparian. So the proposed development will adhere to the city's bylaw with a minimum 15-meter setback. Mr. Clough also notes in his response to Habitat's proposed development that it is following the environmental regulations that contribute to the protection of the Cat Stream, and that the riparian area regulations protective measures identified for the property will result in protection of the same values that he identified in his Cat Stream habitat assessment. Mr. Clough's report also made a number of recommendations for restoration opportunities that could enhance the Cat Stream. As part of our proposed development, we aim to have a positive impact on the Cat Stream by engaging the community in opportunities to participate in some of these restorative measures, including removal of garbage in riparian areas, removal of invasive plants, and replanting damaged areas with native plants. We have also had initial conversations with the Friends of the Cat Stream organization about a potential partnership to initiate some of these restorative measures. The second concern was that the property was part of a floodplain and that this development could potentially have a negative impact on downstream properties. I was able to have a follow-up conversation with Lukowich Engineering, who completed the geotechnical assessment on the report, or on the property, about these concerns. They felt confident that the footprint of the proposed project would have a negligible impact on the floodplain, and through proper engineered design of granular fill on site, the holding capacity of the floodplain could be increased, ultimately having a positive impact on the neighboring properties. The third theme of the open house was support for the project. Approximately 1/3 of the written responses indicated strong support for the project, while another 1/3 were in support for the project as long as measures were put in place to ensure protection of the Cat Stream. So we'd like to thank the community for the input. It has allowed us to look deeper into the impact that the proposed development would have on the surrounding habitat. All that we have learned in this process will be taken into consideration in the design phase of the project if we are given the opportunity to purchase this land. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for the delegation? I see none, sir. Thank you very much. The next delegation, Mr. Preston. You have up to 5 minutes.
Thank you. First, I'd like to open by apologizing. I don't believe I've been abusive. I was a little hot-headed, maybe, when I arrived at Legislative Services 3 minutes after 11. I've been dealing with this issue for 6 months, and so I'd just like to leave it there. Apologies out, and I'm sorry if I caused any trouble, but I don't believe that I was that over the top. Okay, first, I'd like to speak on 5 points today. First is the opaqueness of this project, as I've been dealing with this for 6 months now. I'm the adjacent property owner at 484 Pine Street. When I first found out about this project, I approached the city and asked them what was going on, why were there surveyors on the land lot next to my house, and I was informed that the Habitat project would be taking place there. At that point, I approached Real Estate Division of the City of Nanaimo and tried to make a counteroffer for the property directly abutting mine, 478 Pine Street, for the full BC assessed value of $131,000. I was asked to go to an in-camera meeting in July or June, which I went to, and I was told that I'd be able to attend and present my offer there. I waited outside for about an hour, and I was never admitted into the room. So I believe that the process has not really been fair and open. I also submitted an FOI request to the city, and I got back about 50 pages of fully redacted documents. The only emails that I could read were my own. No correspondence between council, the city, or Habitat for Humanity were given to me at that time. Second, I have an environmental issue with this property, as was discussed by the previous speaker. I still believe there are significant environmental issues, and I've given them in the handout I've presented to you all. But since I've made these points on numerous occasions through email and through council meetings, and I've never been significantly responded to on this, except by Councillor Armstrong, I won't continue speaking on that point. Third, the true cost of this project. The city estimates this project to cost about $450,000 with the cost of the lots and DCC charges, which you're absorbing 50% of. Yet my lot is valued at almost twice the value of these lots. So once these lots are serviced, they should be assessed at about $708,000. That's a significant increase over the $450,000. Include the DCC charges and also the construction of a 2-lane road and sewer system. I believe this project will cost in excess of $1 million. And I'd like to know, has the City Planning Department made the true cost of this project available to council, and if not, why not? The construction cost of the road, the sewers? No? Okay. Number 4, your official community plan, section 3.2.6 on page 68 states, and I quote, disperse nonprofit and special needs housing throughout the city, end quote. Within a half-kilometer radius of this project, the city currently supports 1, the Salvation Army at 19 Nickel Street with 23 shelter beds, 2, the Good Samaritan House at 355 Nickel Street with 26 shelter beds, number 3, on 437 Wellesley, there's 36 units of housing, 4, there's the Sonola project, or the old King Arthur Courts, which has 35 units of townhomes, and number 5, Albion Place, 5 doors down from my house, about 100 meters from this project. It has 17 townhouse units. So totaling them up, there's at least 137 units within 500 meters of this project. I don't understand how this is dispersing affordable housing throughout the city. This seems concentrating it in the downtown and Harewood neighborhoods. Oh, and also within that same 500-meter radius, there are exactly 2 city parks that provide playgrounds. And according to the old city official neighborhood plan, any development that occurs next to the Cat Stream must have usable public space. As this project stands now, there's no usable public space. So that's your own city plans. Number 5.
Need you to wrap up. You got about 20 seconds.
Yeah, I'll wrap it up. I would just like to request that this council delay a vote tonight, and we're going to have an election in 5 days. Let's have a fresh pair of eyes and ears look at this. I'm not 100% against this development, but the way in which it's been done over the past 6 months, I found it's been totally unfair. And I'd just like to be given a fair hearing by a new council.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Any questions?
Councillor Brennan.
Thank you. I appreciate that you did apologize to our staff. I want you to know that the reason I voted to hear you is simply because I don't think we have any jurisdiction to deny you speaking because you were abusive or whatever to staff. But I want to tell you that I take a really dim view of it. I am glad that you apologized, but our staff is not targets for people's frustration.
If I may, because I've been called out in front of council here of being abusive. I raised my voice, I used no foul language. I was frustrated because I've been dealing with this process for 6 months. I send you all emails, you never emailed me back, except for Councillor Armstrong. Councillor Thorpe sent me a short email back, and Councillor Bestwick, thank you very much. Other than that, nobody has responded to me for 6 months.
I'm sorry, but that's not the point I'm making. The point I'm making is our staff is not open for abuse. Councillors, that's a whole different story.
Okay, I think I'm going to
Not
have to
our
wrap
staff.
this,
Okay,
wrap this
well,
up. This is for questions.
I believe that's a very strong word.
Thank you, sir. No further
Any-
questions.
any further
Oh,
questions?
Councillor Hong, for questions.
I do.
Thank you.
Have you seen what other habitat projects look like?
Yes.
So are you opposed to the project that they did in South Nanaimo?
No, and I've been trying to communicate this to you all for 6 months. I'm opposed to the current configuration because it goes within the 30 meters setback. Now, we've had our back and forth about 15 meters, 10 meters, 30 meters, but I've proposed several times, why don't you just build row houses along Pine Street with a half lot and leave the forest alone? And that's all I've been asking.
Well, Habitat knows their project better. It's probably for the density purposes to maximize the building envelope or the building lot. And a question to their staff then, is it 15 meters from area setback? So it's 15 meters.
15 meters, yes.
If you built row houses along Pine Street, there would be no need to build a two-lane paved road that I assume is going to be lit at night, 165 feet up along my property line and where my business is. That's my argument.
Yeah, that'll come up for design advisory in the next council
Okay.
for that plan. Thank you.
Any other councilors?
Nope, see no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Next delegation is Mr. Tim McGrath. Oh,
No, like this was that, I didn't know we had more.
okay.
Good evening, council. My name is Tim McGrath. I'm here this evening representing the Harewood Neighborhood Association. The association has reviewed the additional information from Mr. Clough, the consultant who did the work for the RDN. We're satisfied with that. I can certainly feel for my previous speaker with his frustration at times. But the neighborhood is in support of the project, and that's what I'm here to inform council on. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I see no questions for you. Thank you. Is someone prepared to move the recommendation? Oh. Okay. So moved by Councillor Hong, seconded by Councillor Brennan. Councillor Yocum.
Yeah, thank you. Question through yourself to staff. On number 1, on the fact sheet we got from one of the delegates, the salmon issue is important to all of us and myself, obviously. So with the project going ahead, will there still be that space to release salmon? If any projects come, I'm assuming access will still be there to do the projects as such, if this project goes through. I'm assuming yes.
Your worship, yes, through to Councillor Yocum, and I'm not sure if the plan is to release it from that property or just into the system itself, but more importantly, the intent is to protect the riparian setback all along the boundaries of this land.
Thank you very much. Councillor Bestwick.
Thank you very much. Couple of simple questions. Is there the 15-meter setback retained in its entirety?
Yes.
Thank you. And the amount of restoration that will be warranted, or already is warranted when you walk that site and along the stream, who's responsible for the restoration of the Cat Stream on that piece of property?
Your worship, it would be, as with any development, it would be the private landowner in the end. We'd work with them through the development permit process and the landscape plans that were developed with the focus of removing any invasive species, but ultimately replanting with native plants wherever possible. But it would be the responsibility of the developer.
So that will be, the Habitat for Humanity will be responsible for the restoration of the Cat Stream and its upland, if you will, once the project commences, or when the project is complete, or?
Generally, that's correct. It would be up to the detailed design through the development permit. But generally, yes, if there's works that are done in and about the stream, it would be the responsibility of the developer.
So sorry, but I'm just not quite comfortable. So there's going to be no development within the riparian setback. However, the riparian setback requires, becomes the property of Habitat for Humanity, requires considerable amount of cleanup and upgrade and restoration, and not just taking out a plant, putting in a plant, or removal of invasive species. There's garbage, there's buried stuff, whatever. So my question is not whether it's encroached and built on, and then it becomes a responsibility of. It won't be encroached on, you've told me that, but that doesn't mean that the riparian from the water course to the 15-meter distance will be restored or cleaned up. That's what I would like to hear.
And Your Worship, part of my response to you is because we don't, at this point, the report that was done in front of me doesn't say that there's extensive amounts of work that needs to be done in that area to replant. But if there is, if it's further determined that there is work that needs to be done in that area, or if there's a landscape plan that's done for the areas adjacent to the riparian, then it would be the responsibility of the property owner.
So when we're doing the design advisory panel, it's not unlike the road that's going to have lights on it and maybe sidewalks and whatever else it's going to have for easier garbage pickup and so on. This vote tonight, it makes it a fait accompli that there's going to be a 160-foot roadway down there, and so I would just like to hear that it's going to be fait accompli that the riparian area will be, and I'm hearing that it's going to go to the design advisory panel, and they could say, no, it's fine. The report doesn't say that there's anything warranted to be cleaned up or addressed, and it's quite evident to me when you go there that it does need work.
So, Your Worship, generally, if someone's coming to council and they're asking for a variance and they're asking to do development within the riparian, and council supports that, generally a condition of that is that that there's compensation provided, and that's often in the form that there's work done within the riparian. In this case, the applicants are not asking for any setback reductions. They're not asking for development in the riparian. The plan that I have before me right now does not identify the extent of that work, but what I'm saying is if there is work that's needed that's identified through that development permit process, then that work would be secured and be the responsibility of the applicant.
Thank you. Well, I'm hopeful that the people that remain on this council will look after that. Thank you.
Thank you. So there's been, a motion has been moved and seconded. I call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Show of Councillor Bestwick opposed. Motion carries. Next item, proposed telecommunications tower at 821 Mon Road, to be introduced by Mr. Lindsay.
Thank you, Worship. This is a request to present to Council from Rogers Communications for a letter of concurrence to support the siting of a telecommunications tower at 821 Mon Road. The recommendation from staff is that Council give support and provide a letter of concurrence to Industry Canada in order to allow for a 45-meter tower on the subject property.
Is there someone prepared to move the recommendation? Second. Moved by Councillor Brennan, seconded by Councillor Armstrong. Discussion. Councillor Hong.
Thank you. I know we've had this discussion a while ago, but who owns that property on 821? It's not us, is it? So do we have any property down there that we can offer up? Because it doesn't seem to make any sense to us that we should be putting these on our our properties and our infrastructure, so we can actually make some money on the usage of these towers.
So, Your Worship, I can confirm it's not our property. We do work with these companies at times when they identify lands that we have that they feel are appropriate, where in the areas where they're trying to site. I'm not aware of any lands that would fall within this boundary that we could provide for siting of such a tower.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much. Seeing no further speakers, going to call a question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Next one is under public safety, and that's under 11A, nuisance property abatement at number 204, 311 Mount Benson Road, to be introduced by Mr. David LaBerge, Manager of Community Safety. Mr. LaBerge.
This report's to inform council of ongoing activities that are occurring at the apartment at 204 of 311 Mount Benson Street. These are activities that are substantially and unreasonably interfering with the other person's use and enjoyment of property. These calls have been repeated and require police service to abate ongoing nuisances. This property is a strata apartment building owned by and managed by Concise Strata Management. It was brought to the attention of the city in 2017 in November by the RCMP, reporting that they'd received 20 calls of service between May and November last year, which they considered to be 13 of a nuisance nature. These involved matters of yelling and screaming within the building, damaging property. There was a window in somebody's vehicle that had been smashed, a surveillance camera that had been broken, screaming and conflict, yelling off the balcony at people passing by on the street, repeated banging on neighbors' doors, and damage to vehicles. The residents of the building expressed fear and frustration. Some of the calls warranted criminal investigation. I know there were some criminal charges laid, but a number of these calls had substantial nuisance aspects to them with disturbances. The police and bylaws communicated with the owner-occupant extensively on this and were unsuccessful to mitigate any of the nuisance activities. So staff prepared a report in the winter of 2017 to bring this matter before council for nuisance abatement. However, just before the matter was supposed to come before council, the individual left the community and was gone from Nanaimo for an extended period of time, and there was nobody available to appear on his behalf, so it was pulled. This owner returned to our community in September of this year, and within a few days of his arrival, the nuisance activities promptly returned. Police have reported to the city that they've been to this property again 4 times in September, again to abate nuisance activities. This again consisting of the occupant yelling at people on the street from his balcony and the sounds of breaking items within the apartment. One of the more recent concerns expressed was that there's no power to the apartment, and the neighbors saw him bringing firewood and combustible items into the apartment, which led to concern because there was no fireplace anywhere to burn the wood. So the fire department has been notified, and they've been to the apartment a number of times to try and conduct an inspection, but haven't been able to gain access, so we don't really know why those things were being brought into the apartment. The neighbors continue to call, and realtors on their behalf expressing their peace and enjoyment of the properties substantially being interfered with by the occupant of this apartment. And our staff have continued to reach out to try to mitigate these issues, but the owner remains uncommunicative. So it's at this point that we're referring it to council to consider a possible declaration of this property as a nuisance pursuant to the bylaw 4645 to authorize us to record and charge for the municipal services required to abate these ongoing nuisance activities. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Armstrong.
I'm just going to move the motion.
Thank you. So it's been moved and seconded. Thank you. Any further discussion? Councillor Vestwick.
Thank you very much. The summary points on page 84, no questions to staff or anything. I'll support the motion. I do find it rather ironic, however, that we make reference to cost recovery bylaw, nuisance abatement and cost recovery bylaw 2003-4645, to authorize staff to record and charge municipal services, including police, required to abate nuisance activity because of the 20 complaints commencing September 17th and recommencing again. Neighboring residents report that disturbances from property substantially interfere with peace, quiet, and enjoyment of their neighborhood. One Port Drive would certainly qualify. Police and city staff have communicated with the owner. Nuisance property abatement measures were being referred to council in October. Police received 20 calls for service to the property between May and September. I think we probably get 20 a day for One Port Drive, and as early as an hour ago, we were spending an hour on this subject matter again, to how to handle this delicately. So the application of the process of the bylaw, to me, should be across the board and should not be, and not that this one shouldn't be followed, but this certainly says to me that if we take our bylaw serious, nuisance property abatement cost recovery bylaw 2003-4645, then that to me is all we need to be able to have done what we just finished talking about again an hour ago. I'll support the motion.
Councillor Brennan.
I'll just want to observe that the remedy that we're taking here is to authorize staff to record and charge for municipal services, including police required to abate nuisance activity. We would actually be fining ourselves because, of course, that would be a charge that the city would have to pay. So quite a different matter.
Thank you. The phone lines have lit up. Thank you, Councillor Brennan. Councillor Hung.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank staff for getting this issue to us in a timely manner, where it was unlike the one that was on Bowen Road, which took a long time. So I just want to thank you for that, and I think, I will fully support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Yocum.
Thank you. Just quickly, absolutely support this. Good work, guys. And in regards to the previous conversation, of course, we know we wouldn't be invoicing ourselves, but we should be invoicing One Port Drive to the province as they continue to offload everything on the city of Nanaimo. So that's what I would suggest. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Beswick.
Thank you, Councillor Yocum, for extending a direction that I think that we could have taken. And not only that, the people that are in violation and those that represent those that are in violation financially may be somebody that we could take into consideration in terms of the nuisance, in terms of the amount of peace and enjoyment factor that's taken place there since May till now and continuing. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I remind Council we're referring to 311 Mount Benson Street. Councillor Fuller.
Just curious if the bylaw that we're referring to, 311 Mount Benson Street, my understanding is that bylaw was being reviewed. How are we going with that?
It's my understanding that a review started last year to update the schedule of charges because they were based on staff fees when the bylaw was enacted over a decade ago. And it's certainly in need of some updating and should be coming forward sometime in the near future, I would hope.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no further questions, call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. So the next items, B and C, have been withdrawn. We're now on 12A. Business License Amendment Bylaw number 5351.13.
Make the motion.
Councillor Kipp, thank
The
you.
Business License Amendment Bylaw 2018 number 5351.13 to amend mobile food vending license process to permit food trucks and trailers to operate in specified on-street and city park locations be adopted.
And seconder. Seconded by Councillor Thorpe. Thank you. Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
I move financial plan. Motion of financial plan amendment bylaw 2018 number 7253.03 to amend the 2018 to 2022 financial plan be adopted.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Thorpe. All those in favor? It's at the adoption stage, Councillor.
So you can't ask any questions?
It's at the adoption stage. Can't be modified.
So I can't ask a question?
Why would you need to? It's time to be adopted. Debate's over.
I would like to ask a question as it relates to the 2018 financial plan.
I will let you, I'll give you a little bit of liberty, but it's at the adoption stage, Councillor. Go ahead.
Under 2018 annual surplus deficit, the surplus for 2018 is estimated at like $13,326,396. Is that correct?
There's nobody here from finance.
Sorry, Your Worship, I wasn't prepared for a discussion or debate tonight. We don't have anyone here from finance. I would have to follow up with you on any questions.
Thank you. I wasn't interested in debating either. I was just asking a question. When we get the agendas on Thursday, Friday, knowing that Monday night is our opportunity to ask questions, that was what I intended to do, regardless of the fact of what stage it's at. I just wanted to ask $13,326,396. So if you want to take that question back to finance, and just please ask them, is 13 million the forecasted surplus, which is identified in this budget? I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Your Worship, we will follow up tomorrow.
Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Show Councillor Kipp is opposed. Next one.
Highway closure and dedication removal bylaw 2018 number 7255 to provide a highway closure and dedication removal of a portion of Newcastle Avenue adjacent to 400 Newcastle. Pass third reading.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Armstrong. Thank you. Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
I'll move highway closure and dedication removal bylaw 2018 number 7266. That is a motion to provide for highway closure and dedication removal of an unnamed lane adjacent to 897 Albert Street and 474 and 478 Pine Street. Pass third reading.
Did I hear you say 7266?
Did I? I thought I said it right.
Bylaw 2018 number 7265.
65? Did I say 66?
I thought you did.
Did I? My fault.
Just to clarify for the record. Thank you. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Hahn. Thank you. Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
A motion that housing agreement bylaw 2018 number 7269 to increase the maximum permitted occupancy of 2185 Salmon Road to 10 persons for the purpose of providing shelter to women and children fleeing violence be adopted.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded by Councillor Brennan. Thank you. Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
A motion that housing agreement bylaw 2018 number 7270 to secure 38 affordable renting units within a new 74-unit development at 2020 Esteban Road, Nanaimo, be adopted.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Thorpe. Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Before we go into moving of the motion on this, we do have a delegation on G.
Yes.
Thank you. So on G, Council Procedure Bylaw number 2018, number 7272, we do have a speaker, Mr. Tim McGrath. Name and address for the record, and you have 5 minutes.
Am I required to give an address any more than Nanaimo?
No, sir.
Okay. My name is Tim McGrath from Nanaimo. On this council procedure bylaw, I understand that there are some irregularities in the advertising, and I think that be clarified. There's also some concerns about the minutes, and there is also a change in wording. And I believe that council has been advised of all of those issues. I would like to see, since we're talking about procedure, that procedure be followed prior to passing this. That's all I ask.
Thank you very much. I see no questions. Councillor Kipp.
I'd make a motion that we table this for the next council.
Is there a seconder? Second. Okay. On the motion to table, all those in favor? Opposed? Show Councillor Hong, Brennan, Mayor McKay, Thorpe, and Armstrong. Opposed, motion is defeated. For adoption, Councillor.
Somebody else can move it.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Armstrong, seconded by Councillor Brennan. Councillor Fuller.
Yeah, I just want to say I'm not going to support approving this bylaw.
Thank you. Councillor Kipp.
I appreciate the work staff is doing on this. It's been a busy time. I believe the changes have been so long on the books that I believe the next council needs to look at this. That's why I can't support it this time. Appreciate the effort, but this just doesn't cut it. And I do have concerns with the advertising, the minutes, and some of the word changes. Thank you. So I can't support the motion.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Seeing no further speakers, call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Show Councillor Bestwick, Kipp, and Fuller opposed. Motion carries. As no correspondence, no notice of motion. Other business.
Yeah, thanks for the memories.
Question period.
Been great. Been a riot.
Did anybody sign up for question period? Thank you very much.
Motion to adjourn.
Seconded by Councillor Armstrong. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Are you tired of dragging the garbage out? They just don't make them like they used to. It's a saying that doesn't really apply to garbage cans. Yes, young man, you seem ready for a new garbage and recycling